Leaving a religious community isn't just about changing your beliefs. It can feel like losing your identity, your voice, and sometimes even your sense of safety. A lot of people don't talk about what's actually happening after you leave. The anxiety, the guilt, the questioning, and the feeling of who am I now? Some people, it doesn't even feel like a choice. It feels like something inside them is waking up. Another part of them is terrified of what that means. If you've ever felt trapped, silenced, or confused in a religious environment, or you're trying to figure out what we actually believe now, this conversation is going to feel really familiar. Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Lunar Counseling Podcast. I'm your host, Kiara Brown, a licensed professional counselor, EMDR Certified Therapist, Certified Hypnotherapist, and the owner of Lunar Counseling. This podcast is a space for grounded, real conversations with therapists, healers, and guides about the deeper layers of mental health, trauma, embodiment, and what it truly means to come home to yourself in an integrated and sustainable way. Today, I am so pleased to welcome Maria Zabeti to the podcast. Maria is a licensed marriage and family therapist and the founder of Zabeti Psychotherapy, California-based private practice serving adults through online therapy. Her work centers on high achieving, helping professionals who feel stretched too thin, overwhelmed, and caught in patterns of overfunctioning. She deeply understands the quiet burnout that can come from being the strong one, the capable one, and the one everyone else relies on. She also specializes in supporting adults recovering from high control religious environments. She helps clients gently internalized beliefs, rebuild trust in themselves, and rediscover their own values, voice, and sense of wholeness. Her approach integrates evidence based CBT with brain spotting, allowing for both practical tools and deep emotional processing that supports lasting change. She is very passionate about creating a grounded, compassionate therapeutic space where clients can set healthy boundaries, reconnect with their inner clarity, and move toward a more meaningful, self led life. So, welcome, Maria. I'm so glad you're here. Ready
Thank
to
you so much.
dive into this today.
All right.
So I'd love to ask everyone what brought you into the therapy world.
Gosh, I would say that what brought me to the therapy world really has been my just love for connection with people. I, since I can remember as a child, I really loved connecting with people on a deeper level, really talk about real issues, real life issues, and what's going on. And so that's how I started and realized that I would really enjoy connecting with people. And so overall, as I grew up, I realized that counseling really was a great way to connect with people on a deeper level and just really be able to listen. Being able to listen instead of just being the one doing all the talking, but just really being able to listen to people and just really hear their stories is amazing to me because I see them from it's like point A, they come in and they have they're hurting. They're hurting and they really want to be able to know how they can move forward in their lives and how they can be able to feel better, to feel more whole. And when I see them going from point A to whatever point, for lack of a better word, point Z, I feel like it's such an it just to me, it's amazing to be able to see that, see their healing process, their journey. So for me, it's really, I love that. I love that since going to school and everything. It's just been amazing seeing others connect and me being able to connect with other therapists on a deeper level as well.
That's so true. Just being like even like just a part of someone's journey from when they go to like where they're really in like the muck and like just down and out phase of their life and then get them out of it and like they're happy, healthy, and whole, however that looks for them is like just so amazing and like just invigorating.
It is. It's just beautiful, watching like just a miracle happen, really, because they feel helpless or hopeless. And feel just frustrated with things and with the situations and the people, possibly maybe even the relationships they have in their lives, and wanting to make it better and wanting to connect more, and just seeing them coming from that where to where they can say, wow, I've been able to connect better. I feel better. I don't feel as stressed in my life, and I can focus.
It's very true. So you had to have like, a little bit of a niche though, like the religious piece and like the highly like doctrin doctrinized religious piece, I guess, is what you really work with. How'd you get to that part of your practice?
One of the reasons why I really wanted to work with people that have been really just very disappointed in their specific group has been that I myself I've actually had that experience. And so I fully understand those that have had that experience or really are going through it right now, and how much they are hurting and how much they really want to either they want to be able to continue, or maybe even if they've already had while they're in their religious group, is to continue to do some deconstructing and ask questions, wondering, okay, wait a minute, is this really real? Is this so? I think one of the things that for me helped me wanting to really help people in their journeys, because I myself had gone through therapy with because of that journey and been able to deconstruct. And so I'm I really want to be able to help those that are going through the same thing.
Yeah, that's awesome. On your own journey, what would you say was like the biggest thing that helped you heal or get to where you able to like actually have your own voice when it comes to your religious experience?
Gosh, I think one of the biggest things for me is being able to have my voice. One of the greatest things that's I think we all take for granted. We tend to think that, "Well, I shouldn't say that," or I shouldn't ask that question because then I'm gonna maybe be berated." And it makes you feel like, okay, it's just best that I don't even say anything. I'll just do what's being told or what's being asked of me and then continue on. But people, for me, I just feel like being able to know that I do have a voice and that it matters is what's really been the biggest thing for me. It's been amazing.
That is so true. Because again, whenever people are in those environments, their voice gets so silenced and cut off. So then they even start like questioning like their own internal like warning signs. Is this okay? This sounds doesn't seem right. Like this seems like it could be really harmful. But then they just get so sucked into it, and it's hard for them to get out of it a lot of times.
Yes. Yes, it definitely is. It's very difficult. There's just so many things that, and so many things that experiences that they go through, but also so many feelings, so many doubts, so many dreams lost as well. I think I know for myself, it's just definitely been that where I felt like some dreams just weren't able to be realized. But I've had to move on and continue and realize, okay, I need to continue to dream. I need to continue to really find out who I am. What do I really want? And so I think a lot of people that have had that experience really want to know. They want to know, okay, what's next in my life? Am I worthy of even pursuing my dreams? And so I think that it's so important for people to really get to that point to where they want to process, okay, what what do I do? And understand that they have the right to live their own lives. And that's really what's I feel that I want to be able to convey to my clients and continue to do that. Say, you have
And
the
it's
right.
that's such an because they're right. Like there's like certain things like are allowed in certain groups that could squash like some like really big dreams, right? Like, if you have some lofty dream of like even being rich or wealthy, you can like go against some religions of where they think about poverty, right? where you can't have all these material goods. But it's like, but I really want to have a really nice house, or I really want to have a really nice car. And but it goes against maybe that vow that they want everyone to take.
It's really all about sacrifice, right? The
Mhm.
message is sacrifice, and that you've got to be willing to sacrifice your dreams for God, right? And they use that sort of language that it just is not helpful and makes help for at the time for myself. I really believed, okay, I need sacrifice, but it's really not. It really shouldn't be to the point of your own detriment to your own health, your mental well-being, just being able to feel free is so important.
Any dreams that you're able to reclaim for yourself that you're really happy that you got to reclaim?
I'm sorry, say that again.
Were there any dreams from yourself, like for yourself, that you thought you had to give up, but you're able to reclaim in like your own healing journey?
Let's see. I think that for me, I think one of the things is biggest thing, one of the dreams I've always had is to really feel understood, to really feel not feel judged. And I think for me, that was one of the biggest things that I've always felt judged. And I felt like I had to be silenced, and I was silenced because I felt that judgment. And I've always wanted just somebody to listen, just to listen to me while I was talking about my dreams or talking about certain situations. And so I think for me, one of the biggest things was just that it's being able to feel heard without judgment. And so I feel like now, if that's just been, I mean, it's been so invigorating to be heard and surrounding myself with people that will do just that
Yeah,
and not not silence me because they were uncomfortable with what I was saying.
that's the best thing ever. Because like, it's not, even though it's not like a lofty dream like that, but that's like the ultimate dream, right? Where you're in a life where you are respected, understood, and have that unconditional love for who you are as a person. You're also like filling a role. Like there are people like I love Maria because she's Maria, and she's the best person ever. And it's not I love Maria because she does X, Y, and Z for me, where she does X, Y, and Z what she's told to do.
Yeah.
It's such a different feeling.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. It's almost a sort of feeling of being dehumanized when you're not being heard and not, you feel like you don't matter after a while. And this, after the constant feeling of being silenced, you really just don't, you just wind up just being silenced and you don't realize how much you silence yourself and you self-center yourself, you constantly judging yourself as to what you say. Oh, you judge yourself after something that you maybe felt was wrong that you said. And so it's so important to just slow down and not judge yourself, but really stop, think, okay, wait a minute, am I judging myself here? And just really just not do that to yourself, because that's where that those feelings of anxiety, also the religious anxiety, the constant like wondering, okay, should I do this? Should I not? Oh my gosh, will God strike me down? It's just, it really becomes so stressful to follow your faith when you have so much anxiety that is right there.
Yeah, that is so true. So I'm just curious, have you ever had it where it's like couples where there's one couple that wants to break free out of like that, maybe of that type of religious restriction, and the other partner doesn't want to leave? Like kind of navigating that aspect of things.
Mm, actually, no, I haven't had it in couples, as far as I haven't seen that. But it's interesting because when I was in the religious group I was in, interesting enough, I did see that as far as professionally, no, but I was able to see. how one person was already feeling you could see that this one person or this one spouse was already out the door, while the other one was like, no, I'm going to hold on. And it's a very difficult thing to really see because I mean, especially for the couple, it's like very difficult because it's the anxiety, the arguments, and while one feels one way and the other feels like there's just that it's just really very difficult for them. And until that one person says, that's it, I'm gone, I'm out of here. If you don't want to leave, I'm leaving. And it's just a lot of hurt and pain.
Like one person that's like wanting to leave, like kind of restriction, and like even knowing like if they desperately love their spouse, but like for their overall health and well being, it's like I can't stay here and stay healthy.
Yes.
Like we have to leave for us to be in a healthy marriage. And if you can't leave or you won't want to leave, then I had to leave myself and kind of had to figure out for themselves what to do after that.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And it's difficult when the one spouse or both of them really love each other. It becomes even more difficult to leave because then there's the church in your ear in one, and then your husband and your wife, and your spouse on the other. And so there's just this pressure that's put upon people that want to be able to leave, to be able to feel freer and to feel whole in their lives.
But I know you said you didn't do it, haven't had it professionally, but so the people that you've personally seen it, have you ever seen them be able to come back to each other like, as with the other person then decides to leave or their partner leaves?
You know what? Sadly, no. Sadly, I think when they break up, and I've seen this so much in the religious group that I was in, is that a lot of people did break up and one left, or both of them, but it seems more like one left and then they broke up. I've seen that a little bit more, but I did see also other couples that were, they left together, and and their marriage has still continued, which has been really just great. I personally have stayed in touch with those couples, and they're going strong. And so that's hopeful for me.
Awesome. Um, So like whenever you work with individuals that are in that experience, what's like some of the biggest tools or tips that you give them to help them get their voice back and find their own autonomy outside the religious group?
I would say that I would really work first, I would work with their thinking. And just first of all, I'd like to be able to just have them get to get to know them a little bit better before I do that. But get to know them a little better, help them to be able to talk about it. Because that's important. I really feel like it's so important for them to talk about their experiences. And so that I can be able to better help them and be able to get to know them. And then one of the things that I would use would be CBT, which is the which is cognitive behavioral therapy for your audience. I would use that, and I would help them with their thinking, their negative thinking processes, and help them to come to a more alternative way of thinking for themselves, right? Because whatever that may mean for them. And I help them to really to get to a point in their lives, and the deconstruction is okay, do you want to continue to go to a different church, a different or not? And so it really depends on them, on what they decide to do in their lives. So I guide them through that. I would guide them through, okay, first of all, of course, helping them with their thought processes. And then the trauma that comes from also being a part of a very high control religious group is also where I would then use brain spotting to be able to help them. through those traumatic experiences that they've had as well.
Sounds awesome. Cause it's true. And at the same time, too, it's like you're letting them decide what the next phase is. Like, is it still staying in that faith just with a different church or other like religious gathering place, or is it leaving it all together and finding one that better fits their worldview?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Because they deserve to make to being in a high control religion, you don't get to really make a lot of choices because you're constantly you're working in that group. We're constantly working, so you don't really get to stop. And that's why I said I'd like to get to have them just to be able to talk about their experiences because oftentimes people in the high control just group, they don't have that opportunity because they're working really hard within the group and they're thinking that this is what my purpose is to be able to work for God, to be able to sacrifice. And that's, it and what they want and what they feel comes second best. It just comes last. And so they're not able to have time to even process what they're doing and and are they happy doing what they're doing? Really?
That's so true. And would you say most of your clients got into these groups as adults, or were they like brought up in them with children, like kind of, so they're also breaking away from the whole family system as well?
Definitely a lot of people that have come from high control religions, it could be either they've been there since they were a child because the parents became a part of that and they grew up, which has they have their own set of challenges as well. Being growing up in a high control religious group versus the adult that comes in and then start to get to know people and then starts realizing later. And so it really does come with a lot of different challenges because not everyone has the same experience. They can be a part of the same group, religious group, but have different experiences. And so you have to really, that's where the listening comes in. That's where them being able to really process their experiences comes in because they're just so different.
Yeah, that is so true. Because like even some kind of say like within families, like you're never raised with the same parents, and like you're never raised within the same family. Like you're not raised, you never like in the same group because everyone's experience can be different. Like a male's experience and a female's experience can be like vastly different in the same group, just based on even like gender roles and that environment.
Yes, it's just so different. It just goes by each person's experience. And obviously, just, both men and women go through different specific challenges. Like, obviously, all the pressures of, and we can just talk about so much purity culture, just the sacrifice, the constant working for the Lord. There's just a lot there that they would need to process in order to really be able to then hopefully then get to the other side and as they work hard for it because it's really going to take a lot of work in order for them to really see themselves at the top of the mountain that they've been able to come from the valley to the top of the mountain and they're able to finally see the light, see freedom in their lives.
That kind of like parallels really well too with your other like nature, like working with like the high achievers, like the overdoers, that everyone relies on because they're constantly working and working for everyone else and putting themselves last.
Yes. Yes, exactly. So I really feel like they're both obviously they have their own separate set of challenges. One that's working is living a life that's not somewhat being dictated, yes, by others, but they do have their own set of challenges as well. That when it comes to like their family and whatnot. And I think it does it goes pretty parallel, like you mentioned, right? To where the people that have experienced a high religious or that is high control group are also they experience in that sense that they experience their families. If their families are not in the group, then that person, that individual experiences a lot of pressure from the family as well. So that's just another area of challenges that people with that come from a high control religious group also deal with. It's just the family aspect too.
Yeah, that's very true. So I'm curious, you can answer if you don't want, you can answer, you don't have to answer, depending. Whenever you left the religion that you were a part of, did you fully separate from that faith? Or what was your experience like fully separating? What, like leaving the group?
Yes, I did. I fully separated from that religious group. I no longer go there. I do have friends that actually were there, but I don't really have anyone specific that I talk to that's there, that's still in the actual religious group. It's just everyone that has left before me, actually. That's who I talk to now. Because you feel like when you're out, it's like you still need to build, and that's another challenge that I just want to touch on, is that when you leave a high control religious group, you're having to, if you don't have friends already that maybe have left before you, it's such a challenge to be able to really create a strong friendship, a strong support system. It's very difficult for that person that doesn't have that. They're just leaving. So that's another major challenge that people in high control religious groups go through.
It's almost comparable, not the same level, but of like people leaving like DV situations where they don't have support leaving that situation. Like it's really easy for them to fall back into that.
Very, yes, that's it. That's another challenge, right? Is that there, and then oftentimes, and not to be, you know, I'm just going to, for this, obviously for this podcast, we'll say that it's usually men, right? That are, it could happen as well with gay couples as well, but focusing really on what could happen with between a man and a woman when there is DV going on. It's really difficult specifically for the woman because, especially if they have children. So you have that set where the woman had been told, the woman had been told, you need to listen to what your husband says, you need to obey, because the scriptures are used to also control people as well. And so then if she's being told that, hey, you need to obey your husband, you need to go back in spite of what he's doing to you, then, because God would not be happy, then that is where you get into a pretty dangerous situation as well. There's just a lot there.
That is, it is very dangerous. Have any of your clients had it that you worked with dealt with something similar to that? Where you would like help get them through that kind of contentious separation?
No, actually, I've known of some of one couple. Again, it's been when I was there, when I was in that high control religious group, where the the wife was being abused, and she finally then had the strength to be able to break away and divorce within the group. And that was tough because the group is constantly teaching, oh, we don't have divorce here. So it gives you that, oh no, if I divorce, I'm the one that's being the biggest sinner here. I'm the one that's evil because I'm the one that wants to leave this very abusive relationship. And where the abuse is he done me. That's also very difficult. But this one particular woman that I know was able to leave. And I'm glad that she was able to leave the relationship. But she decided to stay in the group. But then they did break up and somehow he left. So there are so many different things that could happen, so many different experiences that
Instead of
do happen.
something like it's really nuanced. And I feel like happy for her that she got out of that situation and she's safe. And if that she had any kids, she got the kids out too.
Yes. Yeah, there's just so many different challenges that people that are in a high control religious group go through, those specific challenges.
Yeah. Have you ever worked with any of the kids from those situations?
N- No, actually, I haven't worked with kids in that situation. No, currently, right now, I currently see adults. I see adults from 18 to 65. So I don't really, I haven't, or even in the past, I hadn't dealt with that.
That's curious. I wasn't sure like if you saw any parallels of like how the kids cope with like leaving that situation to how the adults cope with leaving that situation.
Yeah, no, I've heard of stories because once I got out of the group, I listened to many different stories of people that were actually pretty much born and raised in that group, in the high religious group versus people that come in. And definitely I've heard of one couple that I do know that left the group. Their children were raised in that environment, and the children felt, now they're adults, but they were able to talk about how they felt like they didn't belong. They didn't belong in the church, or and they didn't belong in the world, the outside. So they didn't know. They had no. They were feeling just like they didn't belong anywhere.
And like that sense of community, it's isolated for so long.
Yeah.
Yeah. This one thing it's always bothered me about the high religious groups, like where regardless of the religion that they're really in. It's supposed to be like a fostering a sense of community where everyone can feel and be seen and heard, understood. But then it's like around like the same religion and then without having to hide it, but then it turns out having to hide the aspects of yourself. And like just have to conform to the cookie cutter person that no one would ever meant to form into. It's just not what people are wanting to be. Like no one's cookie cutter.
Exactly. Exactly. You have to really go and you have to go by their experiences and be able to really help them because it takes time. It takes time to get through all of that. And for myself personally, I'm really happy that I was able to do that. I was able to really break away completely. And I was in this group for over 30 years.
Yeah.
So it's practically half of my life being in this high control religious group.
Were you partnered at the time or have kids whenever you left? They all live with you?
Actually, no, I wasn't partnered. I came in as a single woman. I think it was just fresh. I was in college. I was in college. And then once I went into the group, I stopped because, again, it's like you feel like you have to work for the Lord. You have to do all these things. And I just did not go back to school and worked all through those years and then decided, I think it was in 2003. Yeah, it was in 2003 when I decided to go back. And I said, I am going back no matter what. So there was appeal in the group. There was a lot of disunity, a lot of arguments, fighting. And so I took that time as nobody was really paying attention. So I took that time to then say, okay, I'm going back to school. So I really feel like I've been lucky, very lucky in that way that I was able to really go back to school and then continue. I continued. Then it wasn't until 2004 that I got married. And I met my husband there within the group. And then it wasn't until I finished college that actually, no, it was during the pandemic. Now that I think of it, it was during the pandemic. So I think during even that time, I think a lot of people were leaving because during the pandemic, it was such a crazy time. We weren't going physically, weren't meeting. So we were just watching it on TV. And then from there, we still didn't even know. We didn't even know that it was a very unhealthy group until we stopped. And then we had that time to think. And once we realized, we were like, oh my gosh, we educated ourselves. I like listening to one of the several, I guess you would say, several cult experts. They call themselves cult experts. And I started to listen and realized, oh my gosh, that sounds like my church. And he started to really talk about what a high control religious group, how they run the unhealthy areas. And he came up with what's called a bite model, where it was the behavioral areas that how high control religious group works. So if you call it AK cult, how they work is the behavioral aspect, the I stands. I can't remember right now there. And then I think that's like the part of it's still communication, how they communication control, how they just don't want to. There was so many good things. I'll definitely share that with you, or that is so that you can put it on the podcast. But his name is Stephen Hassan, is the actual cult expert that I listen to a great deal. And he
Yeah.
was the one who actually, I read his book, and amazing. It really helped me through some of that deconstructing that we were talking about earlier.
Yeah. That's awesome. I'm glad that you were able to get out of it. And like both you and your husband were able to get like kind of that space to get into a healthier place in your lives and finally even a church that like was not highly religious, just like you worship God however you felt was the best way to worship him rather than like having to have this prescribed ideals that you had to live up to.
Yes. Almost impossible ideals that you had to live up to, and which caused much more anxiety, more spiritual anxiety, just a lot of, at times, even depression, right? Because you felt trapped. You
Yeah.
sometimes felt trapped. You felt like your life wasn't going anywhere. What have I been doing with my life? It's just so much that a person has, so many emotions and a lot of opportunities lost. That's one thing that what he calls cult survivors, what they go through is having to process all of that, process just all of the dreams that they might have had in their life lost, all of the things they could have been doing or could have done. And just one of the things that I would say that for myself, or would say for myself, one of the things that I had to deal with was anger. And this is another thing that's not really talked a lot about with cult survivors. You realize that this group was not who you thought this group was. And then when you start to realize those things, then you become angry because of, again, it's just all of that, the opportunities that you could have had have been lost because you were given advice not to do something that could have really helped you in your life.
Yeah. And it also sounds like too, like those opportunities could be things that could open and expand your mind to outside perspectives and outside ideals that they don't want you to have access to.
Yes. And that's just part of the control there of communication with the outside.
Yeah.
And so yeah, there was a lot there.
Yeah. Wow. I'm so happy for you that you got out and now you like taking like your experience and you're helping others like get to the point in their spiritual journeys that actually are fulfilling for them and not life sucking. Because any spiritual practice is not supposed to be life sucking. It's supposed to be life fulfilling.
Yes. Yes. And I've been able to, if anything, one of the things that I felt that was just so satisfying is being able to talk to the people that have left before me that did not realize, or maybe somewhat realized, that they were coming from a high control religious group or cult, aka cult, and being able to help them and educate them on what are some of the things that they would be experiencing. And there've been we've had some great talks, great talks. So
Amazing. Yeah, and I guess all people they don't always think of like all people think of cult, they think of someone like hiding in the woods in like this compound type thing, but it's not always what it's like. It's people like living out in the world on day to day, but they have a church community that can be or whatever religious aspect they subscribe to, they're like so controlling in all areas of their lives. And
yes, that's a good point that you brought up too, is that when people think immediately when they hear the word cult, they think Jim Jones, think the people's that was Jim Jones. They think about all of those cults in the past where people drank the poison, and so they think that they had to come from some kind of compound, some kind of control area, completely isolated from the world, right?
yeah,
And it's so, I think today, what I've noticed and what I've learned a lot is that it's not quite like that right now at this time, as we're really now in the future, here and now. It's not like that with religious groups. You're seeing the person. I went to see my family members, although they didn't like the church I went to, but I went to see them, and so I would go to different things. And then there were times where this is the confusing part about survivors, is that there were good times too. It wasn't just all bad. And people tend to feel confused because it's like, gosh, I had good times in this group as well. I've grown in different ways in this group, but it was just that the mixed with the very unhealthy things that happened is what leaves survivors very confused.
it's like psychological abuse. And in a relationship, like in a marriage relationship, like most abusers, they don't start out abusing you right away. They rule you in with like candy treats, like treating you really well, giving you all the fun things, giving you all this and this, and then the switch happens. And at that point, you're so hooked, you can't see light in the dark sometimes.
Exactly. And it's obviously it's like the honeymoon phase, right? The DV
Yeah.
cycle. You come in and you're in the honeymoon phase, and oh, everybody loves you. You love everyone. It's really great. You feel a sense of purpose, a sense of family. And that's what reels you in. You just get right in there and you're just like, oh my gosh, this is a great group. I can see myself being here for the rest of my life because I have all this support. Until then, things start to change and you start to really then question it.
Very interesting. Been amazing. I feel like we can talk about this for hours. Right. Is there any tips or tricks that you'd want to leave people with if they're in a situation like this to help them like notice or find supports to help them get out of it if they need to or want to?
Definitely, I would really encourage them to read Stephen Hassan has a few books actually on his website. That's how I actually started deconstructing. Is I read his, oh, I'll have to I can't right remember I read it some time ago, but I would definitely recommend reading, and I would listen to a lot of survivor stories. That is a really good. So if you're right now in a high control, for your listeners, if you're in a high control religious group, I'd recommend just slowly really start to read and start to look at some of these survivor stories, listen to them and see if there's any similarities with your group versus their group. And I would definitely, and I'm going to share that with you, is the fight model, Stephen Hassan's fight model. That's a big one there too, because it really does give you the characteristics of a high control religious group. in these different areas. And then of course reading his book, which I will also share with you for your listeners as well.
Awesome. And what would you prefer, like the best way for people to get in touch with you to learn more about your work and or even if they want to work with you to help them help with their deconstruction process?
I would say that definitely through my website. Spot is my website. You can also get a hold of me on Psychology Today. And then also, yeah, but mainly those are the ones. I have also a LinkedIn account as well. But I would say that, and a simple practice is called the therapy finder of the simple of my actual. So basically, just I would say that the main one would be my website, right? At this point.
Awesome. Yeah, and all those links and resources will be down below too in the description of the video for people to look at and have access to so they can instantly click on the links. So this has been amazing. And like I love hearing survivors be able to like, take their stories and then share it with people and help them get out of it too. And I was just so happy for you to actually have the light that you now want and can have that unconditional love and respect from your spouse. And it's just awesome.
Yes, me too. Really happy. And I really want to help those as well to be able to feel that sense of wholeness and freedom that they so crave.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.